Ethan Reed was not a hero or a soldier. He was a quiet human engineer who liked fixing machines more than talking to people. He worked on Horizon Station, a peaceful space outpost built for trade and research between different alien races. Most humans who came here were scientists or diplomats. Ethan was neither. He only cared about tools, wires, and broken engines. He enjoyed living on the station because nobody bothered him. The aliens respected silence. No one forced him to attend parties or make small talk. He could work in peace, but that quiet life began to change the moment she arrived. Her name was Lyra of House Taval, a high-ranking diplomat from a distant world called Virulon. Her species was tall, graceful, and elegant, with pale blue skin and silver eyes that reflected light like water. They were known for their calm logic and emotionless speech. They never shouted. They never smiled. They never joked, which was why Ethan was completely unprepared when she suddenly proposed to him. It started with a simple lunch break in the shared cafeteria. Ethan sat alone as usual, eating his reheated vegetable stew, when Lyra walked over and sat across from him. She always moved silently, like a shadow. Most humans felt nervous around her, but Ethan didn't mind her presence. She never talked much, which was perfect for him. For weeks, she had been watching him work. Sometimes she stood behind him while he repaired machinery. Sometimes she asked questions about human tools. Ethan answered politely, though he always assumed she was only interested in learning for diplomatic reasons. But that day, something strange happened. She looked at his food tray, then at him. "You consume the same meal every day," she said in her usual calm voice. Ethan blinked. "Yeah, it's easy to make." She tilted her head slightly. "Do all human males repeat the same food pattern when left unsupervised?" Ethan coughed. I don't need supervision." She nodded slowly. "Interesting." Silence returned. Ethan thought that was the end of the conversation. He went back to eating. But then Lyra spoke again. "Human relationships confuse me," she said. Ethan glanced at her. "Relationships?" "Yes. Your people often choose long-term partners based on emotional compatibility, humor, and mutual entertainment." She paused, studying his face closely. "Virulent unions are different. We choose based on practicality, stability, and survival. If a bond benefits both sides, we form it without hesitation." Ethan wasn't sure how to respond. He wiped his mouth with a napkin and said, "Well, that's very efficient." She nodded again. "I have been observing different humans for potential partnership study. Some are too unpredictable. Some are too loud. Some are unreliable." She paused. "You are steady, calm, capable with repairs. You do not waste time." Ethan stared at her. Was she complimenting him? Before he could understand what was happening, she continued in the same serious tone. "Therefore, I conclude that if I were to select a human mate, you would be my first choice. Would you like to form a union?" Ethan dropped his spoon. The sound echoed across the quiet cafeteria. He looked at her, mouth open. "Form a what?" "Union," she repeated calmly. "Equivalent to human marriage or partnership. We would share living quarters, resources, and future planning documents." Ethan stared at her for a solid 5 seconds, trying to process her words. Then he laughed. He didn't mean to. It just slipped out. He thought she was trying to make a joke. Maybe she had been studying human humor and wanted to test it. After all, no one from her species had ever shown signs of joking before. Maybe she was the first. "That's a good one," he said, wiping a tear of laughter. "You almost got me." She blinked slowly. There was no smile. No change in expression. I was not joking. She said plainly. Ethan froze. She continued speaking as if she were discussing weather conditions. "If you accept, we can submit the union request today. My people will be pleased that I have selected a human. It will improve our diplomatic ties." Ethan's face turned pale. Your people. They'll know about this?" "Yes. A union announcement between species is a public matter." "Public wait. No. I think there's been a misunderstanding." Lyra looked confused for the first time since he had met her. "Misunderstanding?" Ethan raised his hands frantically. You can't just propose marriage in the cafeteria. Why not? It is efficient. It's not how humans do it. She frowned slightly, staring at him as if analyzing a broken machine. So you refuse? I am not saying that, I'm just... Ethan rubbed his forehead. Are you really serious? She nodded once. Yes, I do not speak without purpose. Before Ethan could control the situation, two scientists at the nearby table overheard the conversation. One of them, a friendly man named Lucas, stood up with wide eyes. Wait, did the virulent diplomat just propose to you? Ethan panicked. No, it's not what it sounds like. Lucas looked at Lyra. Did you propose to him? Yes, she answered calmly. Lucas's jaw dropped. Oh my. Stars. Within minutes, the entire cafeteria was whispering. Some were shocked. Some were delighted. Some were recording secret messages to send to their friends. By evening, every human and alien on the station had heard the news. Ethan, the quiet engineer, was now engaged to Lyra of House to Vale. He spent the next morning running across the station trying to deny the rumors. No, it was a misunderstanding. He told a group of excited human nurses, "Please stop congratulating me." He begged a pair of alien officers. "I didn't accept anything." He told 3 giggling scientists, but nobody believed him. They thought he was being humble. Worse, the virulent delegation sent him an official welcome letter. Addressing him as honored partner of diplomat Lyra, he even included a long list of union traditions, such as joint meditation sessions, 45 minutes daily, cooperation declaration ceremony, shared sleeping quarters. This may be adjusted for human comfort, the note kindly added. Ethan nearly fainted. He ran straight to Lyra's office. She was calmly reading a digital tablet when he burst in. Lyra, you have to fix this. She looked up, unbothered. Fix what? The proposal. Everyone thinks we're engaged. She placed the tablet down neatly. That is because we are. No, we are not. Ethan ran a hand through his hair. I didn't say yes. You did not refuse clearly, she replied. You laughed. Among my people, laughter during a proposal indicates pleased acceptance. It is in our cultural handbook. I didn't read the handbook. That is not my fault. Ethan slumped into a chair, defeated. He looked at her tiredly. Lyra, this is a huge mistake. I'm just an engineer. You're a diplomat. Your people will be angry if I don't follow their traditions? She paused. If you reject me publicly, it will be seen as an insult to my entire delegation. Ethan went silent. She wasn't threatening him. She was simply stating a fact. Her voice was calm, but her eyes held a faint tension barely noticeable. But Ethan caught it. He sighed deeply. So what do we do now? He asked. She folded her hands neatly. A temporary agreement? Temporary? Yes, we will pretend to be engaged until the political meeting next month. After that, we can separate respectfully. No one will be offended. Ethan leaned back, thinking, pretending. For 1 month? No real marriage. No real union. He could manage that, probably. He exhaled slowly. Fine, but this is just acting. Not real. Understood, she said calmly. I will schedule our first joint meditation session. Wait, what? She stood up gracefully. We must appear united. Ethan covered his face. What have I gotten myself into? Later that day, Ethan lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. He had come to Horizon Station to avoid drama. Now he was accidentally engaged to an alien diplomat. He expected to feel terrified instead. He felt strangely curious. Lyra was not like anyone he had ever met. She never lied. She never insulted anyone. She was honest to the point of danger. And she had chosen him. Not for charm or humor, but because she believed he was steady. No one had ever called him that before. He closed his eyes and sighed. Just 1 month. He whispered to himself. I can survive 1 month. On the other side of the station, Lyra sat alone in her room. She stared at her reflection in the mirror, touching her own cheek thoughtfully. Humans smiled when happy. Should she practice? Her lips twitched awkwardly. It looked strange. She tried again, still strange. But she kept practicing because someone had once told her that unions were stronger when both sides understood each other. And for the first time in her life, she wanted to understand him. The next morning, Horizon Station seemed unusually lively. Word of Ethan and Lyra's engagement had spread beyond the cafeteria into every corner of the outpost. Some humans were whispering, some aliens were nodding politely, and a few curious children of visiting species stared wide-eyed. Even the station's AI system displayed a small congratulations to partner Ethan and diplomat Lyra on their union agreement. Ethan groaned. Leaning heavily on his workbench, "I can't believe this," he muttered to himself. "I have to pretend. Pretend as if I'm engaged. This is ridiculous." Lyra entered his workshop quietly, her silver eyes scanning the room. She moved with her usual calm grace, as if she owned the very air around her. Ethan froze slightly, knowing that nothing escaped her attention. She walked toward him, placing her hands behind her back. "It is time for our first official engagement activity," she said plainly. "What?" Ethan blinked. "You mean joint meditation? Right now?" "Yes. According to virulent customs, we must practice coordinated activities to show unity." Ethan rubbed his eyes. "This is going to be a long month." Lyra did not respond to his complaint. Instead, she opened a small device and projected a holographic guide of meditation poses. Ethan stared at it, trying not to laugh. He had never meditated before in his life. In fact, he considered sitting quietly a waste of time. But Lyra's serious gaze left him with little choice. They began. Ethan sat cross-legged, awkwardly holding his hands in front of him. Lyra sat perfectly straight, legs crossed with flawless balance. Her breathing was calm and synchronized to the holographic guide. Ethan tried to mimic her, but he kept sneezing and shifting. Lyra did not comment. She simply observed. After 20 minutes, Ethan's legs were numb, and he was sweating under the station's climate controls. Lyra, however, remained perfectly composed. She opened her eyes and looked at him. "You are improving," she said softly. Ethan blinked in surprise. "Improving?" "I was falling asleep and nearly passed out. Progress is measured by consistency, not comfort," she replied. Ethan shook his head. But for some reason, he felt a strange sense of pride. He had survived his first Virulon activity without offending Lyra. He allowed himself a small smile. "All right," he said, one activity down. "How many more?" 6, Lyra replied simply. Ethan groaned. 6. Over the next few days, Ethan and Lyra were seen together constantly. They attended diplomatic meetings, shared meals in public areas, and even went on technical inspections of station machinery together. Everywhere they went, people whispered about the unusual pair, the human engineer and the high-ranking alien diplomat. Some laughed quietly, assuming Ethan would never survive the attention. Others were genuinely impressed by Lyra's willingness to include a human in her formal routines. Ethan noticed something strange. Despite the forced nature of the engagement, Lyra's attention was always on him. She asked for his opinion during technical inspections, listened quietly during conversations, and sometimes simply stood nearby while he worked. Ethan had spent years being ignored by superiors and overlooked by colleagues, yet Lyra's steady focus made him feel valued. One afternoon, while repairing a minor power conduit in the engineering bay, Ethan realized she had left a small cup of water beside him, perfectly chilled to human standards. He looked around, confused, but no one else was nearby. Lyra had quietly entered, placed it there, and disappeared. He muttered to himself, "She's looking out for me." He wasn't sure why it mattered, but it did. Meanwhile, Lyra was experiencing unusual sensations of her own. Her species was logical and disciplined, rarely expressing emotions such as excitement or affection. Yet in Ethan's presence, she felt something unfamiliar, an urge to check on him constantly, to protect him from harm, to understand his habits and moods. She found herself observing his small quirks, how he hummed when focused, how he tapped tools against the bench before making a repair, and how he frowned slightly when tired. Each observation added a layer of connection she could not explain. Lyra had studied humans for decades, but had never felt compelled to care for one in this way. Ethan was different. His calm demeanor, focus, and sincerity triggered a reaction in her that was completely new. The station soon faced a small emergency. A minor meteor storm passed near Horizon Station, sending fragments of space debris dangerously close. The debris threatened the station's outer solar panels. Emergency alarms sounded. Humans and aliens rushed to secure the area. Ethan immediately went to the engineering bay to assist, donning a protective suit. Lyra followed him silently, prepared to coordinate safety protocols as the debris approached. Ethan climbed a scaffolding to manually adjust a solar panel. A fragment bounced off the shield but sent vibrations through the structure. Ethan nearly lost his balance. Lyra moved instantly, reaching out and catching his arm with incredible strength. "You must maintain stability," she said calmly. "You are essential to the station's operations." Ethan's heart raced. "Thanks. I didn't expect that." She let go, her expression unreadable. But something about the way she watched him, waiting to ensure he was safe, made Ethan realize she truly cared beyond duty or protocol. After the emergency passed, the station held a debrief. Several aliens commented on their teamwork. Ethan shrugged nervously while Lyra stood composed. Later, alone in the workshop, Ethan admitted quietly, You saved me back there." She paused. "I prevented harm. That is logical. But—" She looked at him briefly, almost hesitating. "I would not wish harm upon you." Ethan froze. Her words were simple, but her tone carried weight he could feel deep in his chest. Over the next week, small changes began to occur. Lyra, normally distant and unflinching, began asking Ethan questions about human life, favorite foods, music, and leisure activities. She tried learning his favorite pastime, a simple form of zero-gravity puzzle solving, and attempted to participate awkwardly but with determination. Ethan, in turn, found himself eagerly explaining every detail, teaching her step by step, and secretly hoping she would enjoy it. Her silver eyes would narrow slightly in concentration, and when she successfully completed a puzzle, she gave a small nod. That small nod made Ethan grin wider than he had in months. Other humans noticed subtle changes too. Station workers whispered that Ethan seemed happier. They noticed him looking forward to his engagement duties instead of dreading them. Lyra, who had been the epitome of composure, now occasionally lingered near him longer than necessary. One evening, station's observation deck offered a view of a colorful nebula. Ethan found himself there alone, gazing at the swirling clouds of purple and gold. Lyra appeared silently beside him. "You enjoy this view?" she stated, though she already knew the answer. "Yes," Ethan said softly. "I come here when I need to think." She looked out at the stars in silence. "You find beauty in chaos," she said finally. "Virulon usually values order. Humans value emotion." Ethan chuckled. "Sometimes chaos is more beautiful than order." She turned her silver eyes toward him. "I am beginning to understand that." Ethan felt a warmth spread through him. For the first time, he realized this engagement, which began as a forced, awkward arrangement, had grown into something. Meaningful days passed. The station's political meeting drew near, and rumors about their engagement intensified. Humans and aliens speculated on whether the union was real. Ethan grew more nervous. He was unsure if he could maintain the pretense without revealing his growing feelings. Lyra, however, seemed untroubled. She approached each situation with calm logic, though she quietly observed Ethan's reactions, adjusting her own behavior to keep him comfortable. While preparing reports in the engineering bay, Ethan noticed Lyra lingering nearby. "Why are you still here?" he asked. "I monitor your work," she said simply, "to ensure efficiency and prevent errors." Ethan smirked. "Or maybe you just like being here." She tilted her head slightly. "I do not understand human humor." "Please clarify," he laughed softly, shaking his head. "Never mind. Just stay. It's easier with you around." Lyra's expression softened an almost imperceptible change. She nodded once and quietly observed his work, making mental notes. Ethan felt a small thrill. It was strange to feel safe and appreciated by someone so powerful and alien. The day of the meeting finally arrived. Station officials, diplomats, and visiting dignitaries gathered to discuss trade and interstellar collaboration. Ethan and Lyra were required to attend together, sitting side by side as partners. Ethan felt nervous, unsure how to navigate the formalities. To his surprise, Lyra guided him calmly. She whispered explanations of Virulon customs and subtle gestures that conveyed respect. Her instructions were precise, efficient, and surprisingly caring. Ethan realized that the alien who had once proposed casually was now actively supporting him in navigating a world he barely understood. During the meeting, an unexpected challenge arose. A visiting alien delegate questioned the validity of a human-alien union. Ethan expected Lyra to handle it alone, but instead, she looked at him, and he felt a surge of confidence. "You are my chosen partner," she said firmly. "Our union is official according to Virulon customs. No further discussion is needed." The assembly fell silent. Ethan felt his pulse racing. He looked at Lyra and saw something he had never expected: pride and loyalty. The calm of Horizon Station was shattered one morning by a high-priority alert. A cargo shuttle transporting critical supplies from the nearby mining colony had lost contact. Its trajectory suggested a collision course with the station's outer docking bay. The warning lights flashed red, an urgent message repeated across the station's intercom. All personnel must report to emergency protocols immediately. Ethan's heart pounded. He had faced minor emergencies before, small malfunctions that required quick thinking. But this was different. This could destroy the station. Lyra appeared at the engineering bay as usual, her expression calm but alert. "Ethan," she said, her voice steady, "we must coordinate the docking stabilization immediately. Your experience with mechanical systems is essential." Ethan nodded, swallowing hard. "Right, let's do it." He suited up and rushed to the outer docking bay, where automated systems were attempting to stabilize the shuttle's descent. Sparks flew from damaged panels, and alarms blared constantly. Ethan's hands shook slightly, but Lyra's presence gave him focus. She did not speak more than necessary, but her instructions were precise, and her attention never wavered. As the shuttle drew closer, a sudden explosion in the auxiliary power unit sent debris flying. Ethan dove to the side, narrowly avoiding a falling panel. He glanced up and saw Lyra moving swiftly toward him, catching his arm with surprising strength. Her grip was firm, unwavering. "You must remain safe," she said calmly. "Your role is too important to lose." Ethan felt a surge of gratitude, and something else, something warmer, he couldn't name. For the first time, he realized that her concern was personal, not just professional. She cared about him. Together, they managed to divert the shuttle just in time, stabilizing its landing. The station's emergency lights dimmed, replaced by normal operations. Crew members cheered, grateful that disaster had been averted. Later, in the quiet of the engineering bay, Ethan sat on a bench, exhausted and shaken. Lyra stood beside him, silently observing. "You were reckless," she said softly, though without accusation. "But you were skilled. I would not have wanted another to handle this." Ethan looked at her, breathless. I couldn't have done it without you." She tilted her head slightly, studying him. "Nor I, without you. Perhaps our partnership is stronger than initially expected." Ethan's chest tightened. The words were simple, yet they carried a depth that he could feel in every heartbeat. He realized that their engagement, once a pretense, was now real in action, if not yet in admission. Over the next few days, Ethan and Lyra continued their engagement activities, but now there was a subtle difference. Their interactions carried an unspoken bond. Lyra would sometimes brush against him accidentally when passing in narrow corridors, and Ethan found himself lingering near her without realizing why. They shared meals more willingly, discussed technical designs, and even walked together on the observation deck, gazing at distant nebulae and the endless starry void. One evening, while watching a bright purple nebula swirl, Lyra asked quietly, Humans often speak of love. What is its essence? Ethan smiled, leaning on the railing. It's caring about someone so much that you want them safe, happy, and understood, even if they're different from you. Lyra turned to him, silver eyes reflecting the nebula. I am beginning to understand. Ethan felt a warmth spread through him. Her words were almost shy, almost vulnerable. For someone who was supposed to be a calm, emotionless diplomat, Lyra was slowly revealing herself. Ethan realized he was falling for her, not the idea of engagement, not the duty of pretense, but her. Then a new challenge appeared. A visiting fleet of virulent traders arrived at the station, led by Ambassador Turan, a senior diplomat who oversaw all interstellar unions involving his species. He had heard about the engagement and intended to observe the pairing in person. His piercing silver eyes scanned Ethan critically, noting his human flaws, his hesitations, and his inexperience with formal protocols. You are the human partner? Turan asked coldly during the initial briefing, the one who has been chosen by Lyra. Ethan nodded nervously. Lyra stood silently beside him, a pillar of calm and confidence. Tyron's gaze hardened. Do you understand the responsibilities of such a union? You are not merely representing yourself. Your actions reflect upon humans and their compatibility with Virulon society. Ethan swallowed, suddenly aware of the weight of expectations. I understand, he said. Though his voice trembled slightly, Lyra's hand brushed lightly against his arm, just enough for him to feel reassurance. She leaned toward him quietly and said, You are capable. I believe in you. Ethan's heart raced. Her words, though calm, filled him with courage he hadn't known he possessed. He straightened his back, meeting Tyron's gaze with newfound confidence. I am prepared to uphold my responsibilities, Ethan said firmly. Not just for Lyra, but for our partnership. Tyron's expression softened slightly. Very well. Observation will continue. Do not disappoint. As Turan left, Ethan let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. Lyra's silver eyes met his, and for the first time, she allowed a small, almost imperceptible smile to touch her features. You are improving, she said softly. More than I anticipated, Ethan grinned. I guess having a personal tutor helps. The real test of their bond came unexpectedly. During a routine maintenance flight outside the station, a rogue asteroid field appeared without warning. Ethan and Lyra were aboard a small shuttle, checking external solar arrays when the asteroid storm hit. Rocks of varying sizes hurtled toward them. The shuttle's shields activated, but a large fragment smashed into the cockpit, sending the craft spinning. Ethan struggled to regain control, flipping switches and rerouting power. Lyra leaned over him, guiding his movements with calm precision. Redirect thrusters to port side. Balance output to stabilize rotation. They worked in complete synchronicity, communicating with precise efficiency. But when another large fragment struck the shuttle, it breached the hull slightly, and Ethan was thrown against the console. Pain shot through his side. Lyra moved immediately, shielding him with her body. You must remain unharmed, she said fiercely. Your survival is paramount. Ethan gasped. I'm okay, thanks to you. Her silver eyes softened. You rely too much on me, but I will not let harm come to you. That moment was different. No diplomat, no observer, no pretense. Just two beings protecting each other, bound by something stronger than protocol or duty. Ethan realized that he trusted her completely, more than anyone else in the universe. And Lyra, despite her usual reserve, was experiencing the same deep connection. After the asteroid storm, the shuttle returned safely to the station. Ethan was examined by medics, and he bore only minor bruises, but the experience changed him. He understood the depth of Lyra's concern for him. She understood his resilience and courage. The next day, in a quiet corner of the observation deck, Ethan found himself speaking before Lyra could say anything. I don't want this to be pretend anymore, he admitted softly. This engagement, it started as a joke, a misunderstanding. But I I think I care about you more than I expected. Lyra's silver eyes widened slightly. She studied him carefully, as if reading his very thoughts. Then she spoke, her voice almost hesitant, almost human in its vulnerability. I have observed my own reactions. I care for you as well. What began as a pretense is no longer pretense. I desire your company, your safety, your presence. Ethan's chest tightened. Her words were perfect and imperfect at the same time, honest and unfiltered. He stepped closer. So, this is real? Yes, she said softly. If you wish it to be? Ethan smiled, relief flooding him. I do. I've wanted this. For a long time, though I didn't know it at first. For a few moments, they simply stood together, watching the stars. The vast nebulae, distant planets, and sparkling starlight reflected the enormity of the universe. Yet in that moment, Ethan and Lyra's universe consisted only of each other. Finally, Ethan reached out, gently taking her hand. She did not pull away. Instead, she allowed him to hold it, feeling warmth and connection. The gesture was simple, yet it spoke volumes: trust, care, and shared understanding. I never expected this, Ethan said quietly. A casual proposal, turning into this. Lyra tilted her head, silver eyes meeting his. I did not expect it either, yet the outcome is favorable. Ethan laughed softly, a genuine, carefree sound that made Lyra's eyes sparkle. Favorable. You make it sound like a report. She paused, then tilted her head slightly, almost smiling. Perhaps, but reports are often accurate. Then this is accurate. Ethan chuckled. I'll take your accuracy any day. In the weeks that followed, Ethan and Lyra's bond grew stronger. They no longer pretended in front of others. Their teamwork, care, and affection became natural. Crew members on the station noticed the change, remarking on how they moved in sync, how they supported each other, and how a once awkward engagement had blossomed into genuine partnership. Ethan, once a quiet human engineer who only wanted a simple life, had found love with an alien diplomat. Lyra, once a calm, reserved observer of human customs, had discovered emotion, affection, and devotion through her connection with him. The casual proposal, meant as a joke or at least an experiment, had led to something neither could have predicted: true love. Standing together on the observation deck one evening, hands intertwined,